Breaking news at the University of Georgia, the Bulldogs have a new quarterback. Jaden Rashada, the ASU starting quarterback, has decided to commit to the University of Georgia. He started the first two games for them. Very interesting situation with Rashada in that he was originally committed to Miami back when he was a top recruit. Then he flipped to Florida. When he was at Florida, he was promised $13.8 million to be the quarterback there with a $500,000 upfront payment that Florida couldn't pay. They had promised him that, and then it fell through, and it was a national story, big scandal. Actually hurt their recruiting quite dramatically because, well, if you can't pay your quarterback, maybe you can't pay your defensive tackle or your wide receiver. So anyway, it was a big black eye for the University of Florida, and he wound up going to Arizona State, starting the first two games there, then he got injured. Now, he started as a true freshman, which is quite impressive. He wound up coming back and playing one more game, so he's played 3 games. But he will basically transfer to Georgia now and have 4 years of eligibility because last year will be his redshirt year. So he's got 4 years, which basically puts him in the same class as Ryan Puglisi, the true freshman who's on campus now. We did not get to see him in the G-Day game because he was injured. And if you remember, Georgia was going to take 2 quarterbacks in this upcoming class anyway. They wanted Ryan Puglisi and Dylan Raiola. Now, Raiola was, the #1 quarterback in the nation. He was committed to Georgia, actually moved to Buford High School, about an hour from Athens, to help recruit and to come to practices and watch all that stuff. He was going to be, Georgia's starting quarterback in the future. Wound up flipping to Nebraska, where his dad played and his uncle coaches. So Georgia still winds up basically getting their 2 quarterbacks in this class, and that's what they needed. You have to have 4 quarterbacks on campus, 4 scholarship quarterbacks on campus because of the way Kirby Smart runs practice. And plus, you saw in the G-Day game, when Ryan Puglisi with a broken kneecap couldn't go, you only had 2 scholarship quarterbacks. So your starter, Carson Beck, and your backup, Gunnar Stockton, had to play the entire game. Usually in a G-Day game or a spring scrimmage, you let your starters go the first half, and then you rest them. You don't want to take any chances. So Georgia was thin at the quarterback spot. They needed some experience, and they get that. They get a very talented 6'5", 195-pound quarterback in Jaden Rashada. Very talented guy, one of the top quarterbacks in his class a year ago, and he gets to come to Georgia. Someone in the comment section when we went live said, well, can you imagine Jaden Rashada throwing a touchdown to Trevor Etienne, the Florida running back from last year, one of their very talented running backs who transferred to Georgia? Can you imagine both of those guys hooking up for a touchdown against Florida in, say, the 4th quarter when you've pulled Carson Beck because you're already winning? Oh, man, that would be wild. You just got to love a good rivalry, folks. Got to love a good rivalry. The other news for the University of Georgia was this morning, Christian Miller, the defensive tackle, who announced yesterday that he intended to put his name in the transfer portal, has opted against that. He is now going to stay at the University of Georgia. He said he has some unfinished business. This was a kid who had been linked to USC. I think he was committed to USC for a while. He comes to Georgia, played redshirted, then played some last year, 209 snaps. He is a very talented, very gregarious, very funny young man. It would definitely be a loss for Georgia if they were to lose him to the transfer portal, but this morning he says he is staying. That is big news for the University of Georgia because they absolutely need him on that defensive front. You need him at that 3 technique. So getting him and landing Dylan Rashada at an area of need, Georgia football is stronger today than it was yesterday. Anyway, stay tuned to UGAsports.com for more breaking news. We'll talk to you later.